change. Yeah, so I practically eat, breathe climate change every day.
Because up until very recent, people were not taking it seriously.
These research data should be incorporated into a single place.
But I think still there is a lack of knowledge, and I think this type of knowledge needs to be instilled from a very young age.
Yeah, it's a big yes, and actually there must be a climate change university in Sri Lanka.
So for me personally, I was someone who was in my school. There was a club called Global Spectrum, and the Global Spectrum is essentially this club where you have to have a very sustainable and always environmental centric. Because, for example, if we were to make a register, we can't have polythene on it, and we have to be very mindful about stuff like that. So I learned about the climate through that mainly. But of course, like I just mentioned, climate change is recent terminology. Global warming was the term back then. So I was more familiar with global warming, and that's when I realized, okay, why did we suddenly start calling it climate change? And then I figured out, okay, there is a difference.
The first time I came across the word climate change was in a textbook, and at that time I did not pay much attention to it, and I had no inclination of working towards this, or I did not consider it such a huge issue to start working on. But during my masters, I started working on atmospheric dynamics, and that is where I came across climate change, and then I just felt that this is where I need to be. I really like working there and see make a difference.
In 2012, when I following my master's degree,
I had it from my undergrad lecturer in Malawi.
I clearly remember the first thing that I heard about changing climate on our planet was when I was like, I don't know, young. As a child, I heard about the ozone hole. I was really concerned, but as a kid, you can't really do much. But since then, it's part of our reality. And I remember, so from that term, global warming, with time, it just shifted and changed to climate change.
One of my geography teacher, or I think it was my science sir, he told me about the climate, what is climate, and when we learned about everything, that was the place we learned about climate change. And in the book, I still remember there was a picture like glacier and it's melting, and a polar bear is on it. And sir that showed us that picture and told that this is happening in the world, that it will be more disasters in the future.
It's really unfortunate because I, as a student, I first got to know about climate change during my freshman year as a university undergraduate, not even at school.
I don't think so, because up until very recent, people were not taking it seriously, and most of the time they might say, okay, so what kind of thing. Now, of course, people are much more serious about it and thinking about, there's some connection between climate change and what's happening.
Yeah. So I won't say they have sufficient knowledge. I also think climate change has been an arena which perhaps there has been a specific community that has for a long time looked into this, but it was only as of recent that perhaps research was coming in from a youth perspective. There is not as much research as I would say in perhaps the EU nations, which has been looking into sustainable policies for a long time. So I think one of the main reasons the lack of research is also the lack of policy initiatives. Other than, of course, the most recent ones.
these research data should be incorporated into a single place. So that is the problem I have faced at this moment in my studies.
I cannot see that much progress in climate change mitigation and adaptation, knowledge sharing, or anything like background researchers, something like that.
The past decade, there has been actually less literature review, and less research focused on climate change. But these few years, and I think also this year, and there has been more research focused on climate change.
I think to a certain extent it does. For example, I think the rural community has been more dependent on the environment, so they would have been aware of this for quite a long time. I think the Colombo crowd, especially the Western Province crowd, has been more aware of it as of late, particularly through social media with the movements and whatnot. But I think still there is a lack of knowledge, and I think this type of knowledge needs to be instilled from a very young age. So perhaps including it into a local syllabus would be ideal.
I don't think so. I think that is some kind of a stagnate in a certain community, especially in the academics, and these ground level people doesn't have any idea about climate change. So they are doing various things, and they are misleading by the people. So I think there should be some kind of a policy involvement, and should be some kind of a massive awareness program regarding this issue.
It's mostly at the national levels and not so much at the subnational levels. And subnational levels awareness is rather poor.
When we consider the local community, they are feeling the climate change. So, for example, you can take the coastal area, especially in Negombo, the fishing community, the minority community. You can't really do your job, like their job is basically fishing, but you can go out to sea. Like if you go on a sunny day, if you visit the Negombo coastal area, it's really hot. You can't even stand on the sun, under the sun. And also, you can take in the upcountry, Noor area, the tea estate workers, they are also facing the extreme temperatures. They are feeling the climate change, the hot sun and all. But I don't know, I'm not sure if they are aware of it.
People get knowledge through newspapers and also get news and the background environments through the radios, televisions, and most of the people do not use the mobile phone or smartphone. Like by going through the smartphone, the younger generation is getting some knowledge about the climate change, and they are going through social medias but when talking about the general public, they don't show that. Even when we take a newspaper, we don't see block letters or big letters like showing climate changes. That small letters in the side, we can see, oh, there's a climate change effect like that. That's the thing in Sri Lankan context, but we have to make it change. We have to change this.
So I think that's very interesting because it's the first time ever that a course or a degree is going to be solely focused on climate change. But I guess it comes down to a question of like how the course content is. For example, is the course content going to be purely a Western-centric point of view, or would it be something that can be applicable to a tropical country like Sri Lanka? And also like the practicality of it.
Yeah, it's a big yes, and actually there must be a climate change university in Sri Lanka, because that in Sri Lankan context, in the universities that I cannot see that some courses are not about the specialized about climate change. Actually, those are about they talk about climate change related to other things like that. We are talking about as agriculturists, that we know we are talking about climate changes, how it affects the agricultural environments, and also how it affects to the natural environment, and also the animal, flora and fauna, everything. But we don't talk about climate change at a specific topic.
I think it's a good idea because actually he is hoping to establish a postgraduate university, not so much undergraduate, and climate change is a cross-cutting area. So it's been introduced in almost all the universities, but at different levels, and maybe not optimal levels. So therefore, because they have to really infuse this one to other programs. So therefore, if there's not much room to do a lot of research on that. So therefore, this climate change university, especially dedicated to postgraduate studies, and then having partnerships with other countries in the world, and maybe private-public partnerships and so forth will be a very good step forward.
Establishing a climate change university in Sri Lanka is really good because it can bring awareness to the local community, and it promotes more researchers. It promotes more researchers to do their research work based on climate change.
It should be a research university, I think. So I think graduates or the PhD student like ourselves can have a chance in there.